DSPN, the Devlin Sports Podcast Network.
LBP with TMG. Let's be positive. Our man Matt Gunn from Twizel. Welcome back, buddy.
Oh, g'day, Marty. How are you? What an absolute delight to be looking at your face rather than just talking to you over the phone. I mean, the new technology, I just keep looking at myself and thinking, wow, how lucky are you to have me on today?
Talking sport from an Australian perspective, the Kangaroos win the Pacific Cup. The Wallabies bounce back to beat England. What a surprise that was. You got decked in the cricket by Pakistan. The whole world celebrates. David Campese, just some of the topics we're going to cover. But kick it off with the Rugby League, because the Kangaroos dominant again. This time last year, Matt, we were giving it to you hard, 30 points to 0. And you bounce back, you beat us, you beat Tonga, you beat them convincingly, even though the scoreline got a little bit closer in the final. You happy with that?
Oh, yeah, it was convincing in the end, Marty. But the truth is the first 15 or 20 minutes with that enormous Tongan crowd, I thought they were coming at us very, very hard. The dominance of their forward pack, it had me extremely worried. They were making meters from the very first tackle up over the 20-metre mark. They're up over the half in 3 or 4 tackles. And I thought to myself, the only way we can win this game, it's not going head-to-head with the forward pack. It's when they tire out a little bit. The intensity they brought was tremendous. What did impress me most, though, was just how much support Tonga had. At one point, mate, I almost felt like jumping over and becoming a Tongan myself. But in the end, I was happy to see the final score. We probably could have scored a couple of other tries, but the game of rugby league's come a long way, hasn't it? And I actually really thought that'd be Kiwis Australia. But Tonga put together a tremendous team. But these days, they're all terrific NRL players. It's not like any of these island nations that are putting together a bunch of jokers. They all know exactly what they're doing. They're competing at the highest level week in, week out. So, the game's come a long way. Yeah,
I love that crowd. I love every time that Mate Tonga play when the national rugby team plays. And we all remember what they did in 2011 when they just blocked the road from Auckland Airport to kick off that Rugby World Cup. But you got to ask, as far as International Rugby League goes, mate, what the hell is going on? You got these 3 teams playing, us Kiwis and Oz, Kiwis, Oz, Tonga, all down here. You got Samoa. Toa Samoa playing up in England. I mean, look, if they want to get the international game going, isn't the idea to organise a tournament with all the best teams together? Is it that difficult to figure out?
I don't know what happened there. I couldn't even explain to you, even though I've sort of read some explanations of it. Why you wouldn't have them all involved, I don't know. How hard is it? Given that was the tournament was named, what was it named?
The Pacific Cup, wasn't it?
What's England got to do with that?
Well, good point. Yeah, really good point.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, you hear that title and you think, all right, it's a Pacific Cup. All the teams will be here and it'll be played here.
Yeah.
I mean, look, you and I know, everybody knows, the management of every sporting organisation has its own mindset, and sometimes they don't even know why they make the decisions they make. Anyway, who cares about what happened in the Northern Hemisphere? It was all about what happened at Parramatta Stadium. The Kangaroos hanging on, really, in many ways, and beating that massive red crowd. I mean, it looked like it was a Knights home game or something.
As far as the rugby goes, be honest about this. Did you expect to beat England over the weekend?
No. Definitely didn't expect to beat England. And I believe that's probably, under Joe Smith, the best performance that the Wallabies have put in by a long way. And what did impress me is some of the backline play. It looked thought out. They were well-run plays. They were well-tested plays, and we looked good out wide. We've got good speed, and in the end, that's really what got us over the line. Pretty high-scoring game. Yeah,
look, it was a Super Rugby kind of test compared to that Ireland versus All Blacks one. Swahili, if you want to pronounce it how the Aussie commentators. What about that? That's brilliant, isn't it? I mean, this guy hasn't played rugby since he was a kid. He looked as though he'd been playing for the Wallabies for the last 2 years.
Yeah, it's amazing how some of these players make that transition. But just a tremendous athlete.
Yeah.
I mean, he could probably turn his hand to just about anything and he'd make it work.
One of those kind of kids,
he's the kind of body type you could probably even see him on a gridiron field, as a running player. Very difficult to stop. He's a real beast of a guy, and I think he's got a massive future. He'll be one of the greats if he keeps going at this rate. But the transition has been surprising. And, Campo's not all that impressed with all these blokes in the Wallabies. But honestly, after that performance, it's pretty hard to be critical given where they've been the last few years.
Do you mind him being critical, though? He's been on the program. Look, I love the fact that he has an opinion. Just because he's got an opinion doesn't mean that you've got to agree with it. And if you don't want to read what he has to say, well, don't read it. But, it's easy to be cowardly after the event, isn't it? And heap on the... How many people, when he was given it a spray before that test match, were saying then, oh, no, you've got it wrong and Aussie are going to win this? I'm sorry, but I didn't hear that many of those.
Yeah, no, look, I'll agree with you 100%. Blokes like David Campese are very rare in the coverage of sport.
Especially rugby.
Especially rugby. The way most of our sports are organised now, broadcasters and newspapers and journalists, they are in each other's pockets in terms of the way they collaborate on the game.
Mm-hmm.
So blokes that say things that other people don't like are often ignored, or they're on the outer and so forth. I only think an opinion is an opinion.
That's it.
Everyone's got the right to it. You don't have to agree with it. I mean, I write a newspaper here and I put opinions in there sometimes just to get a reaction from people, to make them think about things that maybe they wouldn't think about otherwise. Some people write letters to the editor and they don't like people having an opinion. I say the point of it is to get you to have your opinion out there so more people can understand it. That's what it's about. The more opinions we hear, the more informed we become, and the better we're able to look at the game, like in this particular case against the Wallabies. Do I agree about the culture? Well, I think the culture's exactly the opposite of what it was when Campo played. And I suppose a bloke at his age, 62, started at 19, we're in a different world. Maybe he doesn't understand the culture. Yeah. I don't agree or disagree with his commitment to that statement, but I don't really know what his culture means. What does he mean by it? What is the culture?
I think what he means is, look, it's that old kind of school rugby thing. Look, I mean, you come off the field these days, the first thing you do is you don't shake hands with each other, you grab your phone, don't you? It's just a different world that we live in. It's not our world, it is the young people's world. And, he's got to accept that. We've all got to accept that. I don't have a problem with any of it. I just love the fact that, he says a hell of a lot of stuff which no one else is actually prepared to say.
Yeah, and I back that 100%.
Same, every day.
I think some of what he did say is 100% true. I mean, it's about the money, he says.
Well, of course it's about the money.
Paid.
Yeah, they are.
It's a job, but you get paid and you play for a big country like Australia. I think you should have more respect and understanding of why you're there. I think he's right. They do probably go into this area of employment for the money. Why wouldn't you?
No, hell yeah.
If someone said to you, you can go and be a plumber or a chippy and earn the same money that you would playing rugby, you'd choose rugby every day of the week,
absolutely,
wouldn't you?
mate.
You got the travel, you've got the health, you've got the fitness, you've got all these life choices that you have to pay for as a plumber or as a chippy, where it's part of the beautiful wide open world that you get as a professional sports player. So Campo doesn't understand that culture because he didn't have it.
That's exactly right.
They don't have his culture because it's different now. Whether they only play for the money, I don't know about that. Whether they should have a better understanding of one of the world's greatest wingers, maybe they should. But at the end of the day, I agree with you. Hearing opinions is great. Getting people to talk about it is great, because the same sanitised version from everyone about how things are going to turn out. It's a waste of time.
It's a total waste of time.
It's embarrassing to me that some of these guys, they're too scared to say what they actually think because they're too worried about not having a job on Monday. And you and I know that that's an absolute truth too. People don't come back sometimes when they say the wrong thing. So we've created an environment where Campos are on the outer, because people are pretty well paid to be broadcasters now. And, when the game's paying for you to go to some of the games and some of the tournaments and the travel that you do, well, you got to see where your dinner's coming from, don't you?
Let's wrap it up with Pakistan. It's a T20 series. You lost it 2-1. ABA, anyone but Australia. The whole world celebrates every time that you lose a game of cricket. Do you really care, though, mate? I mean, we got the Black Caps at the moment. We went to India. We won 3-0 in a test series. It's probably the greatest ever result in a single series that New Zealand men's cricket team have ever put up. And then we play a couple of 2 T20s against Sri Lanka. Now we're starting to play 3 one-dayers against Sri Lanka before we play England. I just go, I don't get these, and I don't get what the point of them is. And and I just want the England series to start. You lost to Pakistan. I mean, does it bother you at all?
Oh, not really, but I mean, I'm going to do a campo here. I mean, your statement about the world celebrating every time we get
it's
beat.
true, mate.
I mean, come on. What are you talking about?
I'm talking truth,
People
mate.
We had 5 of our first-rate players
on
the sideline.
Here we go.
So what do you want to celebrate?
Mate, it's like the All Blacks job. No one cares if the All Blacks lose 5 players, mate. I mean, you're Australian cricket, mate. You're meant to be giving it to everyone every time you play.
Oh, look, I mean, if you want to complain about something, complain about David Warner captaining another side after he should have been booted out of the game.
Great.
I mean, look, we got beat by Pakistan. The tears are rolling down my cheeks, and then we get ourselves ready. And who do we take on? The battered and beaten India by the Black Caps. And I tell you what, that was the greatest series I've seen from the Black Caps. And after the conversations you and I had before you went away on holiday, the things we said about that Black Cap side.
I know.
No one can believe what happened in India. Nobody can believe it. It was phenomenal. And even with the massive collapse in the first test that got them that win from the Indians, I didn't think they could keep doing it.
No.
And yet they just kept rolling on and doing it. It blew my mind. And I'll tell you what, that will go down as, for a long time, I think, the greatest series that the Black Caps have ever taken part in. And I mean, I wouldn't know what they'd have to do to beat that. Maybe a 5-test series, which they'll never get.
DSPN, the Devlin Sports Podcast Network.